dating. So that's, sorry for the delay. The Gemara in Kedushin ends off saying, the Gemara is asking, why does it say, it's talking about how many kinyanim there are when someone does Kedushin. And it asks, why doesn't the Mishnah say Devorim instead of Drachim? And the Gemara ends off on Askana that every time there's a Machlokes it says Drachim, and every time there's no Machlokes it says Devorim. So we'll open up with, we're heading for a Dover Noah with this Skabel. We're heading for something with no Machlokes, and Baruch Hashem, I'd like to thank both my parents and the Shver and Shviger to be for, I was just sitting there today and watched wonderful chemistry, and everything was going smoothly, Baruch Hashem, without any Machlokes. The Gemara in Yavamas, which we did in last month in the mirror, says on Samach Beis on the base.
That's right, you know. Everyone's into the cheer already.
The person who is not married is Shori. So it says, "Our Tanchum Omer Chaniloi Kol Adam Shein LaIsha Shori B'Lei Simcha B'Lei Bracha B'Lei Teva." It says B'Ma'arova, which is Eretz Yisrael Amri, which is Nogeh to us, learning in Eretz Yisrael. Below Torah, below Choma. Without Torah, a person who's not married lives without Torah, and the question is begging to be asked. Marriage is wonderful; it's a nice institution. Everyone gets happy. There's simchas, and Torah is a very nice. It's a chokhmah, it's a way to live, it's a lifestyle, but why is one who lives without an isha living without Torah? What is the connection? So the goal is to find similarities, connect the two, and come up with maybe an idea that everyone can walk away with. The Gemara says that, the Gemara says in Samach Gimel and Beis in Yavamas, it says that a person who gets married is avanosav yistakikin, they get corked up. And it says that a person who gets married, it says Kama Noah Isha Yofa, Kama Noah Isha Teva. You see how nice a good wife is. The pasuk initially says Matzah Isha Matzah Teva. At the beginning of the pasuk says, the Gemara says, you see the milah of a good wife, because if it's talking about a wife, if the pasuk is discussing a wife, so the pasuk is the Torah is being mishabeach a good wife, and if it's discussing Torah, so we see how good a good wife is, because Torah is nimshala to a good wife. So we see one connection. The pasuk could be going one of two ways, either discussing a wife or Torah. The second is the Gemara in Avodah Zarah and also in Kedushin, Barasi Yetzer Hara, Barasi Torah Tavim. The Kodesh Baruch Hu says, I created Yetzer Hara and I created Torah Tavim. The Mesilas Yesharim brings an example of a doctor. Someone comes in and he prescribes, this is your pill. And the man goes home and he decides that Alka-Seltzer will be much more effective based on his childhood experiences. And he decides to take whatever pills he diagnoses himself with. The man's an idiot. The man's an idiot. The Kodesh Baruch Hu created the Yetzer Hara. He said, Barasi Yetzer Hara, Barasi Torah Tavim. So, if you're going to try and do whatever it may be, all the cheshbonos of how you're going to tackle the Yetzer Hara, Barasi Torah Tavim, that's the prescription. But there is another Gemara that's brought down also in Yavamas, said Rav Chia, his wife was not the most pleasant lady, but still he would buy a gift anytime he came across something nice, he would take it, wrap it up, and give it to his wife. And they asked him, they said, what are you doing? And he said, it's enough that they raise our children and save us from sin. So we just saw a second ago, Barasi Yetzer Hara, Barasi Torah Tavim, but we see another concept that also the wife is Matzilenu Menachet, is also the saver of sin. We're going to try and connect the two. Rav Chaim Shmulevitz used to say at every Vort, he would go and he said, what do you think Adam Rishon was doing before Chava was created? Adam Rishon was in Gan Eden. Kodesh Baruch Hu said, just don't blow it. That's all he said. And he was sitting there and he had everything. Everything was given to him. He was probably learning Shas all day. There's nothing else to do. And still, said Rav Chaim Shmulevitz in his later state. It wasn't good. HaKadosh Baruch Hu put him there. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the environment. And still, Lo Tov Ve'os Adam Levado, says the pasuk. A person is not in a good place when he is, quote unquote, alone. So before someone gets married, as to not depress the single people here, you have company, you have friends, you have people who remind you what you're going for. And at a Vort, all the friends and the family come together, and there are people who brought us to where we are today. And in the first stage of someone's life, it's the friends and the family, and in the second stage, it's him creating his own family, with his wife and the wife with the husband. But the role that friends play, the role that other people in our lives play, is they remind us where we're going, where we're headed, what we represent. If someone is in a good group of friends, one of the Kinyani Torah is brought down also in Avos, is brought down also at the end of the Masechtas Brachos. Haskes is say kitos. You should learn in a group. You should learn Torah in a group. Is our friends who we are with, even if we may not be holding where we will be holding, they think we're holding there. So Mamela, when we're around those people, that's how we act. That's what our friends, that's what our family, that's what everyone who came, that is what brings us to where we are. And I have to thank on my behalf the friends and family who brought me to where I am through thick and thin, and I'm sure Saratova also on behalf of her. I heard she has wonderful friends, I don't know them, but I heard she has wonderful friends, and I see that you can tell the difference between a person who has healthy relationships and good friendships. Rabbi Yaakov Greenwald says, he said every time the first concept appears in the Torah, that is the representation of the ultimate lamashal. It says, the first time it says the word tov is by or, is by light, is by clarity. There's nothing better than knowing this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Kaviyachal, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu came down and told you, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You don't have any status. You don't feel jealous of Mr. Yehovitzville or Mr. this guy. You know you're doing exactly what you're doing. And if you're playing your role, there's no tov better than that. The first time it says a lo tov is lo tov he'osad levado. Rav Elephant, my Maggid Shir in the Mir, he said ever since he heard the Vort, it rings in his ears every day because he deals with hundreds and thousands of people literally, and a lot of the issues start from being alone. They'll stand out to many other areas, but it'll start. It will originate when a person's by himself. He doesn't have a friend to talk to. He doesn't have he doesn't have parents to discuss things with, to deal with things. The din of a Jewish king is that he has to carry a Sefer Torah everywhere he goes. I heard from Rav Nissen Kaplan in Shlita that the word is that the king is in a position of power, and he needs to remind himself constantly, this is where I need to look, and this is where I'm supposed to be. He has to carry a Torah with him at all times. He can look and remind himself, check himself, where am I holding? The Torah that one learns and the Torah that one is involved in is something that someone can look into and check himself to keep him going. The friends before the marriage and the spouse during the marriage is a place where you can check yourself and make sure you're on the right path, make sure your head's on straight. And the environment that someone builds in a home is such that when he comes home, I heard, just to illustrate this point, Rabbi Elephant was giving a shidduch dating a shmooze, and he opens up with the same line, but I only heard it once, so it was funny for me. He said, the Hasidim have it right, and the Goyim have it right. The Litvaks, they don't know what they're doing. Either meet the girl once, and, go for it, or date for 5 years, and see if it works, and you'll know what a husband and wife relationship is, see if it works and stick with it. But what's this deal of you get dressed up, she gets dressed up, you'll get to know each other enough, and maybe an idea. So he said, aside from the fact that it's all siyata d'shmaya, you're representing where you are going to be. You're representing where your shukifas are, what's driving you, what you look forward to, what you are yonik your chiyas from, what you live off of. And when you come home after you're married, your wife is going to see or expect, quote unquote, a person who is headed in that direction, and the husband also. So during the dating process, they may not know every single thing about that person, although the Snyders did some heavy research. I called my moel. I can't believe you called him. But they're representing who they want to be, what's driving them.
There's that line.
So the relationship, a person without a wife is without Torah. As the Gra takes Esha Schal and he says it's analogous. Does anyone know?
Analogous.
I'm sorry. It is analogous to Torah. And we see that the only excuse someone can have for not getting married is Nifsak and Shulchan Aruch, and it's also brought down in Yevamos also, is if it's Choshka Nafshach the Torah Keben Azai. If you have such a relationship with Torah that it's strong enough to keep you where you're supposed to be going like Ben Azai, that's the only excuse that someone has to not get married. Otherwise it's completely awesome. So I guess what I'm saying is, first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to get some Torah. Thanks, that's first of all. Second of all, we see the connection, and ultimately, where everyone's headed, is that they want to build a home, an environment in which that when they come home, and the wife for the husband and the husband for the wife are playing the role of someone who expects something of you. Ramon Bracha said also by the Yetzer Hara, it says that if all that he gives you a bunch of, ideas what you could do, and it says right at the end, if not, Yazkir lo yom hamisa. It's an interesting lashon. It should just say, Yazkir lo hamisa. Remember, it says Yazkir lo, remind him. So I saw brought down, if there's someone else there, Yazkir lo, there's someone else there to remind you, like the Maimer later on. I would look it up now, but it would take too long. Yochanan ben Zakkai, I believe, was passing away. His Talmidim came in, he said, he wrote something that you should have your Shemayim like Murah Basar Vadam. And they said, that's it. And he said, Halavai, when a person is with his friends, it may not necessarily be exactly where he wants to be holding, but he knows that that's what they're expecting of him. And that's the only thing that can, quote-unquote, save someone. That's the connection that we see from Torah, that's the connection we see from wife, and I guess before you get married, wives and husbands, before you get married, also from friends. So I guess on the one hand, I want to thank everyone who came, from my family and my friends. Just got in from New York. I saw you, don't worry, but I was talking, so I didn't want to draw any attention to you. And from the College side, the College family, the College friends. And then I want to have a personal thank you to my Kala Sarah Tova. It also says in the Gemara, the Lashon is below Tova, your shard below Tova. It doesn't say below Tova. The Pasuk says lo Tov here, but the Gemara says lo Tova, so that's cute. You can't make a whole Vort out of it, but it's nice. So I want to say another personal thank you to Sarah Tova and the whole Schneider Mishpacha for taking me in. I got in, I was walking up the driveway, and the little girl says, "He looks like Tati." I said, "Okay." Maybe I should. But Baruch Hashem, we came in, I spent Shabbos with them, and it was a warm environment, as my father said, and I'm not going to drag anyone else here because we're supposed to shoot for a mincha, but I just want to say thank you to those who came, and thank you to my wonderful Kala, and we should the MS build within ourselves and in all of our relationships, be it with our friends or with our spouses, a relationship that shows us and shows each other where we're headed and where we're going until we bring Mashiach to the kingdom in here. Amen.
Amen.